There you go. It's open.
Okay. So today we are talking about handling capacity project requests that come. So capacity projects are fewer than CIP projects in the data, and they're bigger projects. They take longer because they're truly construction related projects like new additions and new schools being built, whereas CIP, which improves their capital improvement projects. So improvements are being done on the building or the school. So capacity projects, when PTS came into the picture, or PPM took over scheduling rather. That time what happened, they migrated all the projects, they migrated CIP, they migrated capacity, but they left out the capacity ones which were at the tail end of their life cycle, which is something like they were in closeout or construction was, majorly percentage of the construction was already done. So they didn't take the schedule of that because they were only expecting 1 or 2 dates, and they didn't want to handle the data migration and the maintenance of that. As a result, what has happened, what is the scenario today is that there are 90%, I would say, of the projects, capacity projects in PPM. That means their schedule is maintained by PPM. And then there are these 10% where they did not take them over. So we had to have a placeholder for them. So instead of PTS, the placeholder was decided to be data warehouse. So data warehouse captures these dates and stores them and maintains them for the older projects. And PTS shows all the schedules for the projects. So that includes whatever comes from PPM and then whatever comes from data warehouse. So it reads internally, it reads accordingly. It first goes to PPM to read the schedule. If it doesn't find it, it goes to data warehouse to fetch it, and ideally it fetches it because these are the only two places where the schedules are maintained. And of course, in data warehouse, only for a subset of the capacity projects. So now comes the request that we get. So Vidit Patel most of the times comes up because for other projects which are maintained in PPM, they themselves have rights to PPM. They go in and put the dates and things move. But when it comes to the older projects, they don't have the control. So that's when they send us the tickets or request asking us to update the date, which is ideally in data warehouse. But there's a PTS component to it also. In some cases, there's a PTS component. In some cases, there is no PTS component. So that is what I would just define to tell you the distinction between the two, and then so that we don't do extra work which is not required, which gives us nothing but a few days of display of data. So now let's take scenarios. The first scenario would be, I would take a test case as they ask us to update a forecast date for construction for a project which came lately. We got that, which was forecast end date to be updated for say 10 LLWs. So now in this case, a date update, definitely no thoughts about it, will go to data warehouse. So he usually sends it to Vamshi and us both, but even if he's insisting or he's talking to us directly, means instead of Vamshi, any date update for a project. So the first question is when you see a project that with it sent is to know that if it exists in PPM, whether you have to ask PPM team or anyone, you can ask if you want to, or if you send it, if it's a very older LLW and you recognize that it probably is in data warehouse, send it to data warehouse, and then Vamshi would take care of the date update. So any date update that comes for an old capacity project, whether it's whatever date it is, forecast or actual, or for one activity or for another activity, has to be done by data warehouse. So that is one thing.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes.
Once data warehouse updates, would it reflect in PPM as well?
No.
Okay.
These data updates would only reflect in PTS. So PTS uses these two sources to reflect the dates. PPM has only the dates they maintain,
Mm-hmm.
and it never goes into PPM. The dates which are plugged into data warehouse for older capacity projects, they never get updated in or reflected in PPM.
Isn't that an issue though? If there's like inconsistencies with what PTS has and then what PPM has?
PPM will never have for these projects. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, got you.
PPM will not have these projects. That's why we had to define a placeholder to hold the dates for them for whatever tail end activities left. So data warehouse was selected as the
Got
authoritative
you.
source for it because others would reach out to data warehouse. The idea initially or currently also is that data warehouse should be used to fetch data because all the data goes there. So that is ruled out. There's no discrepancy. There's only one source. So, okay,
So
so yeah,
this is you're mentioning about the all that you have talked today is about the scenario where Bidit requested us to update. I think that it was the original start date, no, the end date.
original, it was forecast end date.
Okay,
The
yeah,
example I'm
that's
taking, there could be different
yeah.
examples. I'm going to take all three or four of them, what
And he
comes.
works with PPM, right?
He
Bidit.
works with PPM, but this is a scenario where he cannot plug it into PPM. So he
Yeah,
sends it to us because data warehouse, they don't have control to feed data into data warehouse.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe tomorrow in the technical
So
training we should go over like where's the data warehouse and
no, I don't know where data warehouse. I don't have any connection
okay.
or
But I mean, you told me when I
in.
updated the forecast end date, you told me that it was going to be wiped.
I'm going to tell you
So
why and how.
okay,
And on the day, if you want to look at the data, you'll have to do it behind the scenes because, and then come up with questions in the next class so that we don't go too deep into, means make an attempt yourself and then we'll discuss whatever you didn't find or you have you need clarifications. So basically data where, okay, the only, well, I'll come to those tables, but I don't have any, means I don't have connections to data warehouse, their tables or anything, or nor do I know what they are. But I'll tell you where I came from when I came to know that it'll get wiped off, okay? But this is an example. The first example is we get a forecast date to update. So if it's an older project, if you want to go through a check of whether it exists in PPM, good. If you're sure it's in data warehouse, reach out to data warehouse team directly, or if with it does reach out to them also. But in case he doesn't or he's reaching us only us and forwarded to data warehouse. Okay, now this first case that I took was the forecast end date is requested to be updated. Forecast end date is something like it's not a real, it's actual date which drives the status. So whenever there's a forecast end start any forecast date, no status would get updated. Now status is not maintained in data warehouse, it's maintained in PTS. So that is the case, that is the time when PTS role, there's a role for PTS in this update. So this first scenario I took was forecast end date. Forecast date, as soon as there's a forecast date, there's no PTS update required. So it's only for data warehouse team. They update the date and we are good. Okay, clear?
Yep. Forecast
yes.
date is data.
Status plays
Anyway.
no role in forecast date. It's something like how we get stories and we say, okay, 2 days we'll take. So that's a forecast date. But when I do, I get surprises, anomalies, and it takes 3 days. So when it finishes after 3 days, the actual end date is that date after 3 days. So in this case, the example I took, there's a discrepancy or there's a difference between forecast end date and the actual end date. Sometimes if I say 2 days and I complete in 2 days, forecast end date and the actual end date would be the same. Just giving you examples that how they can differ and what do they signify. And when there's an update required for forecast, no status update because it's just that we are estimating it will get finished by after 15 days. When actually it finishes, whether it's 15, 16, 17, or 12 days, that's when the status would get updated. So that is accompanied by any actual date getting changed is accompanied by status change. That is when PTS plays a role. So if you see Vamshi's, if you see any of the emails, just look for the emails with Vamshi's name, Aldo, and you'll come across sometimes he's saying, please please schedule the process to uh, reflect the date and status update. So that is only related to actual end date. So first date was forecast date, which is only data warehouse. Second case let's take is actual date. So actual date, I already told what the difference would be. They will update the date, that goes without saying. Then there are two things to be done. One, because this actual start date has changed, the status changes. So that status change we'll do via script. That is something we will do. And usually he tells us, please run the process which will reflect the date in PTS. So as soon as he updates the date doesn't reflect in PTS. Why? Because there's a sync process in place which runs, which brings in the data warehouse data into a table in PTS. And we pick up the schedule from that table. So the sync process updates that table. The table is the one which you updated, Aldo, means some time back you updated dates in that table. I'll tell you what happened and how it would get wiped off also. So basically that process runs. Now that process is scheduled, that's a SQL Server job, which is scheduled to run after every Friday, second Friday, means after 2 weeks on a Friday it runs. So ideally, if we don't do anything, we have to wait till that next Friday or next to next Friday, based on what day of the month it is, for the date to reflect in PTS, which we don't want to do because we can't call the job complete until it starts reflecting in PTS, because with it and everybody will look in PTS. They don't know what is going behind the scenes. So basically, Vamshi requests us to run the process on demand on that day itself. So we run it on that day, and what that process does it moves that date from data warehouse to our table, and it starts reflecting in PTS right away. And then we tell with it, and he looks at the schedule in PTS, and he he realizes it's done, and then we close the ticket. So what happened last time is the forecast date somehow was updated into that table itself, which is, you must have looked into the code which is reading that table, so makes sense. But the only thing was that what is behind the table, is it something which we are maintaining? Is it something which gets updated by a sync process? That behind the scenes thing was not taken into consideration. So you updated the date in the table, and rightfully it will start reflecting in PTS screen. So it looks all okay, but that date would have lasted only till the Friday when the process runs, because it was not updated in data warehouse. When data warehouse process runs, it's going to wipe off that date and it will become blank after, and it would have happened after quite a few days, say 5-6 days. So then again, someday Vidit would look at it and he'll say, this was requested to be updated, but it's blank. Plus other systems are referring to data warehouse for the schedule. So data warehouse and PTS, basically both would not have it. They would be in sync. They would be out of sync for those few days when it was updated directly in the PTS table. So don't update any dates in PTS for older capacity projects. And when it comes to actual start date, update the status and execute on-demand execution of the process once Vamshi is done, because only after Vamshi is done, so that date moves to the table in PTS and starts reflecting in the PTS project, whatever the schedules, phase summary, and all the schedule tabs on the home page. So this is what it is.
So
Come up with
basically,
questions.
the SQL Server job that you're mentioning will go into the warehouse, the data warehouse, check the
Yes.
date, and then update our table.
Yes.
Okay.
And then both will be in sync and it'll never get wiped off from PTS, because in the other scenario, it'll show for a few days, but it'll get wiped off. Then for those few days when it shows data warehouse and PTS are out of sync, once the process runs, they are in sync again, but they don't have the date which was requested to be updated. So somehow the other issue will stay, right? So it's
Right.
simple, means it's less work for us. Like if you do the date update, again, we have to go through the same steps again. So just keep this in mind. Forecast date, no, any date, no update by PTS team into any table. And if it's the actual date, status update is followed by it. And of course, on-demand execution of the sync process. So the SQL Server job. Okay.
Okay. This is good.
Now what you do is, if you want to look at anything, well, Aldo, you already looked actually. You especially have already looked. You looked into the table, and what you did was right, but you didn't go deep into the behind the scenes process. That's why. So you know the table where it comes and from where
Right.
it reflects. So just this one step missing, I told you. So now you'll have it in mind, and then the status update and why the status update is required and when is what I answered. So hopefully it'll stay clear. And
So,
Yeah.
and one more question. What is the data warehouse? I mean, what is in there and who's fitting that data warehouse?
data warehouse, Vamshi and Karun are responsible for it. So this has little bit of, this is kind of a back-end maintenance for them also. They go in and feed it. I don't know if Vamshi directly goes and plugs it in or he has to request DBS to do the script. I don't know. I think he has admin rights to many things, so probably he does it. I don't know how he does it, but they are the two responsible for data warehouse, and data warehouse has data from all other applications. It's kind of a central repository for SCA data or information. The idea was to bring all the data so that other teams don't look into our applications or our database directly and just goes to data warehouse to get data from all sources at one platform.
Okay, yeah.
And it does have, I'm not sure if it has 100% data for everything, for all database or applications, but it has quite a lot. It's work in progress, probably
Yeah.
still. So this is what for this piece of it, which couple of days back we did an update, and we do keep getting. And on another note, whatever I remember for this particular update, I'll just say because this is something recent that just came, I think yesterday. This is also to do with capacity project. This is also something with its sense usually, not often, very rarely, which is even the capacity other projects, those date updates are not very frequent because capacity projects don't move so fast, one, and then these are a subset of them. So keeping all that in mind, it's not very frequent. So the other one is he is requested for a capacity project. There's something called project name to be updated. This I did not do a refresher, but what I remember is what I'll tell. And if there's anything, I'll be doing that request. It's a simple request, but I'll be doing. And while doing, if I come across anything, I will mention. Probably next time we meet or in a stand-up itself. That is to do with project name update. So what happens is, this could be to do with any project. This is not to do with old capacity project. This is to do with capacity project, old, new, whatever. So there's a column or attribute called project name for a capacity project. Now this what happens is, as far as I remember, he says that he cannot update it himself. It's locked for him right now. So this is when capacity projects initially are defined. Sometimes they have to build a new building. So they pick up a site. So the site to pick up the site, they do feasibility study. So feasibility study, when they do probably multiple sometimes feasibility studies, and then they come up with the decision that this is the right whatever area plot where the building will stand, and that will be fine. So one of them, other feasibility studies means don't go forward. One of the feasibility studies gets selected, and then the building gets created there. So when it's initial stages of the project, they don't know uh, where they would be doing. So sometimes they define dummy building numbers. Those are not actual building codes. So what they do is whatever is the borough K000. So ideally they use 000 for dummy building. So because they don't know where they're going to really do it, so till then they do this. And down the line, when it gets selected and all, they define the building number and assign that building number to the project or the LLW. So the building at that point gets changed to an actual number. It's no longer a dummy building. So when it's a dummy building, I think, as far as I remember, that the project name can be uh, changed by the user himself. So whenever there's anything, because they could be saying, they could be giving any kind of reference name to that building wherever they are doing the feasibility study. But when it gets selected and actual, it gets a name, it gets a full definition for itself. So they come and change the building to an actual building, and this dummy and actual are defined in SMS in the building table. I think they define whether which building code is dummy and which is actual. So it gets changed to actual building. And once it gets changed to the actual building, I think that column gets locked. That's not editable by the user or something, and that's the scenario. So he wants us to update the project name. This I am means there could be little bit discrepancy in what I said. Maybe I'm not sure, but when it gets locked and when it gets updated to what's in SMS. So, but there's something like this. So sometimes we'll get a request to update the project name. Now, project name, since it's an attribute of a capacity project, it is in only LLWT capacity table. So we just go and update the name to what they say, and that's simple. But why does that request come and why they cannot do it themselves, and there are times they can. So just a little background on that. So I covered two cases for capacity updates, one for all, means applicable to all, one for older projects. What is the time? 23. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So
Mhm.
something came in. I actually like this that we're bringing up like real scenarios that are coming in. That way we can understand like, how to handle it. So something came in Didier's issue about associating the building IDs with the org IDs.
Yeah,
He
that's a
wasn't
different case.
he wasn't
That's
able to do it manually in PIP. Like, so I'm a little bit confused as to like,
no, I have to talk. Actually, I called him in the morning. I haven't had a talk with him yet.
mhm,
But that is something to me, it looks, first of all, he hasn't mentioned the LLW numbers, so I couldn't go and look. As far as I saw in the email, if there's any attachment, I don't know. There
mhm.
is an attachment of a grid, but I didn't find any. Maybe the LLWs are in that attachment grid. If they are, pull one up. Maybe we can see it right now.
From the ticket. Let me see.
Yeah, I think he said one for each borough. They for the earthquake that came, they are defining. I think they want to review or inspect the buildings. So for
Yep.
each borough, they have one
Let me see if I can pull it up.
W. So I just read his mail and then I tried calling him. I thought I could get it resolved right then, but maybe he was away, so he didn't pick up. And after that, I got busy.
I'm looking for that. I don't see it. Let me see. 3, 6. Yeah, I was. So my question is like, can't that be like he can't do it in PIP, right? So why is that like a PTS issue? We have to do it on our end.
No, because it's already past PIP now. It's
Okay, so it's
no
already
point.
in PTS.
Yeah,
Got you.
okay. Before we go deep into this, the Vidit request that I said, Stephanie, take ownership of that. When it comes, you make a decision whether anything is to be done in PTS, because that's the way there'll be more clarity. It might be clear now, but until that's kind of a practice session, kind of, right? Where
Yeah.
you look at it and you just pass it on, or just ask, means don't assign any story to PTS developer.
Hmm.
So, but
Yeah, these
everybody
sessions
knows.
are
So,
definitely
if by
helping.
chance, if everybody knows now, so if by chance you do also, they'll correct you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And like for this one, what happened is they've created. Did you pull up an LLW which
I
they're
can
talking?
I can find the
Open the attachment. There's a grid, right? I think there would be LL. I didn't pay attention. There would be LLW to start with in the grid. I looked at what he circled, which was the
so I'm on Remedy
org.
Force and I can't find the actual ticket he put in. I don't see it.
What, what happened to it?
Yeah, there's nothing from Didier here.
I saw it in the morning. I don't know. Because if we can pull up the LLW, it will bring more clarity. Let me see if I can. So that we can just handle this case next 4 minutes and
Yeah, I don't see it here.
get open the attachment. Then we are close. But to me, what it looked, I wanted to look at the data. I'll keep looking. What happened to my Outlook? Basically, they created for 5 LLWs, one for each borough in PIP. And looks like it shouldn't have allowed actually. I am not sure how it, I think it's a required column, org ID. Org ID means school. So they were able to create LLWs without specifying the buildings. I think they have given a dummy. If you see K00, Q00, so for each borough they just defined it because I think they're using it. I assume it's because they'll be using it for all schools or something like that. So they wanted to create one LLW is what I understand out of it. And they have been able to create a LLW without specifying the org code. So usually when they have this dummy building, they have associated org code also or school code also as a dummy school code. So they didn't assign that and they were able to, and now he's not able to put a org ID against the LLW is what his issue was. I
Mhm.
think if I look at it, I think I can help him do it. And if I understand it correctly, this is what I understand out of this. Oh yeah, right here, then wait. Open the ticket. Why the ticket got closed? What happened?
I think, yeah, it's not there. I don't know.
So yeah,
It was solved by itself, where the AA solved it.
yeah, that's what's happening nowadays. Yeah, science AI closes so that we can rest a little. Is Simon on the line?
No, he's on hold.
Okay. So that's what I understand the issue is. So this issue is different. It's originating from something like new LLW was created in PIP. It has some missing information which he's not able to plug in now. I think he should be able to, but I just want to know what exactly this it is probably what I'm saying, but still, I
Yeah.
would like to confirm. Maybe I'll tell tomorrow what it is.
Okay.
Okay, so
Sounds
this is
good.
different from that. The other one we were talking was a little different.
Mm-hmm.
This is nothing to do with data warehouse, nothing
No.
to do with PPM.
Yeah, I know.
It's from PIP to PTS, but if then they were not able to add it in PIP, it's history now because it came into PTS and then never looks back into PIP. If they update in PIP
Gotcha.
now, it is never going to come into PTS. It's a one way, one time. So PTS
Understood.
never updates PIP.
Okay.
So it's a one way, one time update.
Alrighty.
Any questions on this?
I'm okay.
Okay, can we have quick quiz now?
Yeah.
No, I was just kidding.
I'm ready.
I'm
I
not ready
studied.
actually. You people must be ready, but I didn't prepare any questions.
Next week, next week.
No. But anyway, while we talked, since you people had questions, they itself were quiz questions only.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that's fine.
Thank you, Monica,
No
for
problem.
taking time to teach us.
No problem. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.